Tonight we go to California, where there's an investigation into a sexual abuse scandal and widespread cover-up at one of the few federal women's prisons in the country. The investigation done by the Associated Press reveals that the prison in Dublin, California has been a cesspool of rape, sexual abuse, and retaliation by prison guards and workers, with corruption going up as high as the warden. Joining us now is Mike Balsamo, the lead Justice Department reporter at the AP, who conducted the investigation and wrote the story. Mike, thanks so much for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
So, listen, the corruption, abuse, the cover-ups, they've been going on for years, so long that the facility in Dublin was known to workers and the incarcerated as the Rape Club. So what prompted this investigation now?
Yeah, that's exactly right. My colleague and I have been investigating the Federal Bureau of Prisons since Jeffrey Epstein died in custody in 2019. And what we've uncovered, is just rampant corruption, a hotbed of corruption and misconduct within the federal system. And we learned over the summer that the FBI and the Justice Department's Inspector General had raided the warden's office at FCI Dublin and had raided his home. So we started digging in. We were trying to understand exactly what this investigation was, just how widespread it would be. And we followed this through to this story. We spoke to former and current inmates and staff members at the facility. We reviewed thousands of pages of court records, and we were able to kind of uncover this, as you say, culture of sexual abuse and cover-ups at the facility. So much so, as you note, the nickname there among inmates and staff alike was the Rape Club.
So you talked to the incarcerated and prison workers about the alleged abuse and their efforts to report it. What can you tell us about that specifically?
Yeah, so we heard from multiple inmates that they had tried to report abuse. We know from lawsuits that inmates who had been sexually assaulted had reported their concerns up the chain in the Bureau of Prisons, and we learned that some of those people were in fact retaliated against. We highlight one case where an inmate at the facility said that she had reported being sexually abused, and it was her who was punished. She was sent to a segregated housing unit to solitary confinement for 3 months, and then transferred to another prison. We know that other staff members were likely aware of this. We highlight another case in a civil lawsuit where that employee has not been charged with a crime, but an inmate alleged that she was raped by that maintenance worker, and that other staff at the facility knew about it, and in fact had taunted her. They assigned her to a work detail with the person that she had accused of sexually assaulting her, and then remarked, "Let the games begin," when they assigned her there.
None of that's surprising. I mean, you read about, sexual assault in the workplace and how intimidating that can be. But imagine, these women in a facility where they have zero power, where their voice means absolutely nothing. So it's not surprising that they were retaliated against. Listen, I read in your article that union officials say that the vast majority of those who work at Dublin had nothing to do with the abuse of those incarcerated, that they're upset about these allegations and by the actions of some of their colleagues. But could there have been some who, yes, may not have been doing the abusing, but may have contributed to the environment that allowed these things to go on for so long? I mean, maybe turning a blind eye?
Yeah, that's exactly right. And I mean, that's part of what we've uncovered, right? Is that we know that other employees there were aware of the misconduct. And as you say, union officials are very strong about this, that the majority of the workers at Dublin are honest, hardworking people. And we've also heard that there were some folks who tried to come forward and were likely silenced. And that's part of where we're going next, to try to just understand just how deep this cover-up went.
Now, this prison facility is a women's facility, right? But most of the guards are male. Now, I understand that there's already an issue with understaffing, not just at that facility, but at other federal prisons across the country. But should there be more women, more female employees at a women's facility? Not to suggest that they couldn't be abusive as well, but it just seems odd that the staff there were overwhelmingly male.
Yeah, that's something that we've definitely heard. We've heard calls for, a decrease in the number of male correctional workers at female facilities. There are only 6 female-only federal prisons out of the 122 prisons across the country. And there are obviously female correctional officers who work at male facilities as well. But this is something that the Bureau of Prisons, will have to evaluate going forward. But it'll ultimately be up to the Bureau of Prisons and the Justice Department about how they want to proceed. For now, there are just a majority of male correctional workers at Dublin.
I imagine that it's probably hard for the Bureau of Prisons to not only retain those that are already employed within the federal prison system, but to get new individuals within the system to work at these facilities, especially when there's reports weekly that they're in danger, that workers are understaffed and they can't manage the prison system. And then you have this with sexual allegations all over the place. I mean, who would want to work with the Bureau of Prisons? What about, Mike, your investigation that found that this abuse was allegedly carried out by the outgoing warden, Ray Garcia, who kept nude photos of a woman he's accused of assaulting on his government-issued cell phone and personal laptop? And this all happened while being promoted. Now, the Bureau of Prisons said that they didn't know about the abuse allegations until later, but isn't it their job to know what's going on in their facilities, especially when a warden, whose job it is to make sure that his facility is safe for both staff and the incarcerated, is doing the abusing?
Absolutely. Garcia is the highest ranking federal prison official to be arrested in the last 10 years. And kind of one of the most shocking allegations out of this story is that Garcia himself was in charge of the federal PREA audits, right? The Prison Rape Elimination Act, a federal law that is aimed at curbing just exactly what, he's alleged to have done. We also know that one of his victims has alleged that the misconduct happened while PREA officials were at the facility, and that Garcia is also accused of sexually assaulting her within a PREA-compliant area, a search area specifically designed to prevent sexual abuse of inmates. It was Garcia's job to also train the staff on how to avoid situations like this, right? How to combat sexual misconduct and sexual abuse in the workplace. And he had, an enormous amount of control over both discipline of inmates as the associate warden and then discipline of staff as the warden at the facility. Garcia, obviously, as you know, was accused of molesting an inmate in the facility and then forcing 2 women, including the one who he allegedly molested, to pose nude for him as he walked around through the prison. And then he kept photos of those women on his Bureau of Prisons issued telephone and his personal computer at home.
So how did he become the subject of the investigation, and where does this case stand now?
So we know that several women had come forward to the Bureau of Prisons before, including another case that we kind of highlight within that story of a correctional worker who pleaded guilty today to 3 counts of sexual abuse of a ward. It wasn't ultimately until between 2019 and 2020 when another inmate's allegations caught the attention of the Justice Department's Inspector General and the FBI that a criminal investigation was launched. And once that criminal investigation was launched, the FBI kind of went in. We know that they searched the warden's office, they searched his home, they searched his car, they obviously seized his government-issued cell phone, and they have been interviewing victims and other witnesses throughout this case. We know several other employees at Dublin remain under investigation, and the FBI said last week they want any other victims to come forward and speak to their agents.
Mike Balsamo, lead Justice Department reporter at the Associated Press, thank you so much for your time and for your important work. Thank you again. Up next, more on the AP's bombshell investigation into Dublin's federal women's prison with BNC's legal contributor Paul Henderson when Making the Case returns. BNC celebrates Black History Month and our 2-year anniversary with our march to 2 million daily viewers to help keep Black voices unfiltered. Watch any BNC show 15 minutes a day and let others know about our growing network. Join BNC's march to 2 million daily viewers so we can keep reporting on the news and issues that affect our community. We're continuing our discussion of the AP's investigation into the culture of sexual abuse at a federal women's prison in Dublin, California. Here with reaction is veteran prosecutor and BNC legal contributor Paul Henderson. Paul, so I wanted you to weigh in on this damning investigation by the AP into the Dublin federal prison because in addition to your work as a prosecutor, you're also the director of the Department of Police Accountability for the city of San Francisco. And before that, you worked directly with the mayor on issues of accountability within the criminal legal system. So the women's facility, I mean, is just a few miles from San Francisco where you live. So I just wanted your reaction to the AP's findings, please.
You know, it's offensive and it's shocking. And I will say that a lot of the folks that are in San Francisco in my jurisdiction ultimately end up sometimes in Dublin prison and then that facility. I will also say, just coincidentally, my sister, who also contributes from time to time on the network, used to work there as a psychologist in that prison as well. But the bigger issue is beyond just all of that. And there are good people that are working there. But the bigger picture is that this corruption is impactful and disproportionately, as we know, against Black and brown communities. That's the majority of who ends up in these prisons. And so it's always a problem. The agency that I work with now in San Francisco that oversees both prisons and jails for facilities like this, one of the things that stands out to me, and this is why it's so important, because when we talk about reform and we talk about accountability, one of the things that we have to focus on is prisons and jails. And sometimes we forget deputies in that conversation. And this is why it's important. One of the things that stands out to me is when we're looking at prisons and jails, is we're talking about a population that has limited constitutional protections. And so folks that are in custody don't have the same protections that you and I do have on the street. But that sometimes means that they need more protections when we're talking about inappropriate and unfair behavior about what's happening to people while they are in custody. And abuse is abuse no matter how you slice it. And it doesn't matter when people are in custody and serving their time. They should not be subjected to the abuses that are uncovered by this investigation. So I'm hoping that beyond just the prosecution that took place, that we have accountability in the other tracks of accountability, both in the civil lawsuits that are likely happening right now, but in the administrative responses so that we have policies and practices that are put in place to prevent this from happening, not just in the rest of the state, but in the rest of the nation as well. So hopefully we will learn from this transgression and turn this into something that's positive that can be replicated in terms of best practices and rules for accountability to prevent this from happening in the future.
Well, listen, this isn't just limited to women's facilities either. It's clearly a systemic issue, like you mentioned, and there were 422 complaints of staff on inmate sexual abuse across the entire system of 122 federal prisons. And that's according to an investigation by the AP in 2020 alone. And that's only for the ones that were reported, Paul. Now, listen, I'm kind of annoyed that we're at this place that we're even having this conversation in 2022. This has been an issue from, decades ago, right? Did anybody watch Shawshank Redemption? I mean, not to minimize these issues to a movie, but I mean, my God, it's been a long time coming, and I can't understand why this is such a revealing report for so many when this has been going on for so long. So where do we begin to address these issues?
Should be annoyed, and we all are annoyed because of what's going on in this facility in particular. And again, like I said, there are some good people that are doing that work, but the fact that this and it appears to be so rampant is a problem and a glaring call that officials need to step in at a local, state, and a federal level to make sure that these practices are addressed, and they have to be addressed with accountability. We have to make sure that in addition to attacking this person or having this person prosecuted at the very top, that we go down and change the rules and include all of the people that were involved in perpetuating these practices. That's the problem. This is not just a singular incident. This is an incident that is reflective of practices that have gone on, that have been institutionalized in this institution, And that's why this is such important news. And that's why these conversations should be a call for demands that there be independent oversight. And that's really important. One of the distinction is that there's not as much independent oversight in prisons and jails as there is for police. And as we see the proliferation of that independent oversight, we have to have that in prisons and jails as well, to have outside agencies that understand the law, that are concerned about these same protections, coming forward to both develop practices for reform, but also maintain and demand accountability for the transgressions that are happening in facilities like this moving forward. That's what this is a call for. It could not be more clear from this case, even on its own.
Paul, we're often talking about transparency and wanting to know what police officers who are patrolling our streets and neighborhoods are doing, and so we want to know where that dash cam video is, where that body cam video is. Do you think that that could be something that these correctional facility workers should also be wearing, body cameras, so that we know what it is that they're doing?
Wow, you are really on the cutting edge of where the law is right now. And rulings just came out recently from California's Supreme Court outlining the need for body-worn cameras in facilities, especially in the facilities where there have been a history of abuses. This is really cutting-edge law that just came out right now. And there could not be more confirmation than conversations like this and incidents like this validating the need to have body-worn cameras on deputies and sheriffs that are in locked facilities. And here's why. Even in those facilities where they have some cameras, you're missing the sound that is captured on body-worn cameras. And so the court's reason that you're missing half of the evidence by not being able to hear what is being said and not having clear policies as to when things get recorded. With body-worn cameras, you have the ability to record everything and simultaneously with other people recording at the same time. And those are best practices. The court reasoned that when you have a history of abuses being reported, that is a good justification to mandate not just the need for body-worn cameras, but policies, so that in addition to just having the cameras and you have the data being created from the body-worn cameras, you have to have policies that collect that data, analyze that data, and make it transparent. You need all three of those things in order to have best practices for the new technology. So the short answer is yes, and that was the long reasoning of why the answer is yes, and it's not debatable. You don't get to debate whether or not we think this is necessary or could be helpful. This case is proof in and of itself, and the court's reasoning is proof in and of itself of why we need it, not just in Dublin, not just in California, but in the rest of the country as well, especially because we have so many private prisons that are handling so many people that are in custody right now as part of the mass incarceration problem.
Paul, most of these women went into the prison system for drug-related charges, but are coming out much worse than how they went in because of the abuse that they've been subjected to. So what legal recourse is afforded to them?
Well, they do have some legal recourse, and that's one of the tracks of accountability is civil accountability. And there are many civil rights lawyers, and we've had many of them on the show talking about standing up for the rights of folks when they are incarcerated. And again, these are folks that have limited constitutional protection, but there are some protections. And some of the protections are to prevent abuse. Some of the protections are to prevent exploitation, because it doesn't help that we send people to serve their sentence and then they come out diminished because of the experiences that they've had while they were in custody, particularly vulnerable victims and people that are exploited that come into our system as victims. And then they are treated or victimized further because of the systems where they're supposed to be held, at least, in the very least, in safety while they are in custody. So those come in the place of lawsuits when lawyers represent, either as class actions or individual actions, women and men who are victimized because of the experiences that they've had in custody. And the real challenge in those cases typically is the collection of evidence as proof to show that the abuse has taken place. And in this case, where we have such clear information and evidence about nudes being taken and practices of having to walk around naked so that the guards and the folks that are in the custody settings can see you naked and capture those pictures, I mean, that's such clear black and white abuse and misconduct that I would imagine that we will see civil lawsuits out of it. But, just as importantly, I want to see policies come out of this to prevent it from happening in the future.
All right, Paul, we're nearing a break, but please stand by because we've got more legal ground to cover when Making the Case returns.